Hey, it's been a while. Let's see. It's like if you go live stream, it's not. I should do a selfie before just to say, okay, am I even dressed right? But it is what it is. All right, let me just try to do this so I'm not distracted and you can get me as an image. But I think I'm going to create a mini course. So this is the beginning of self-liberation. And really, this goes back, I got to thank a few buddies, Mark Hodges and so forth, who brought over a Guy Finley book, or Vernon Howard it was, who was Guy Finley's teacher. So we're actually going to do something today from Vernon Howard's pamphlet. This guy was so cool in his time. He printed up a bunch of pamphlets. And this stuff is like, if we had this, it could be a click as a TikTok, and this could be sort of like, some wisdom that popped up. This would really be pretty incredible, because what I'm going to share with you is the foundation and the basis of what self-liberation means and stands for. Now, Guy Finley, he has books, it's all about self-liberation. It's one of his titles. And for a long time, I had the domains. So I still have selflib.org. And I'm thinking of creating, a repository website for some of these ideas, but something where you could participate in helping to spark a real true self-liberation movement where ego is totally removed. And it's really just the ideas now, right? So the ideas that flourish within you. Woo. So if we can think of self-liberation as being getting out of our own story, we can go deep into this. Are we talking about a self that's liberated, or are we getting liberated from that self, right? So what is this then? So I call this ultra being. And this ultra beingness is really being in flow. It's maximizing the state, right? And it's really just letting go. And that's another one of Guy Finley's books, by the way. So I attribute him as a teacher. And his teacher, Vernon Howard, which we're going to have some fun quoting out of, and you're going to go, woo! And the whole mini pamphlet is powerful. It's like a mini book. It's tremendous. So the goal here is to offer some insights, but easy repository type stuff. It's like, oh yeah, it's just a reminder of what I already know. And you get back into this state of ultra beingness. And it's experiential. So we're being social scientists here. We actually are doing an experiment. So what is this experiment? Are you ready for this? It's enlightenment. What would enlightened being really be like? Now, it could be a quantum leap for some to even imagine or conceive what I'm talking about. Self-liberation would be this equation of having let go to something that now has revealed itself into a new state. But this new state, even though it's ever new, is just sort of now the foundation. It's what's present, which is you, totally present. And this becomes a gift. Now, how so? Because this presence really represents something that's really infinite and new and comes from the heart, right? This is from source. We've now tapped into it. You're just like enlightenment, letting go and let the flow. This is what I call ultra being. What? Ultra being. So it's being, but it's practice of some kind of being. So ultra being to me is like, if you could picture, if you know any bit of Abraham Maslow's work on the pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, where we go from survival and struggle at the bottom and, we mature or face life's challenges or whatever comes our way, becomes an education, sort of a lesson in life, that in the refinement process, we would hope that there would be some evolution of the consciousness, right? So what would this be? Ultra being is just a consideration of what this would be at your finest, your best. Woo! You're self-realized now, which was the pinnacle peak of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid. But he wrote beyond what that was. He called it transcendence. So wherever we take our sources from, for you, it could be from the Bible or ancient Sanskrit or some poetry, something that really delights in life, where you have a model for this, whether it's an excellent teacher, a spiritual guru, something you look up to, or more so that you've observed and studied to such a degree that you've been able to exalt the lessons in life, sort of define and divine it. So divining is a filtering process, right? Because you're divining something that now becomes experiential in who you are, being, how you are. So this inner essence, this I awareness, as Dr. David Jubb called it, I awareness is a new word. Just I aware. What? What? It's a study of this presence, right, that is going to exalt the ultra beingness. So if we had I awareness, what would this be? And I'm going to give you all as a composite now. And it is a formula in producing the state. And the state of ultra beingness is what we're exploring in the process of discovery. So we're naturally being with it, and we can kind of let go all the other mind gunk and whatever else may have defined your past. Was once a part of your personality until you found this, and now you could let it go. There's a new sense of being that results. And if we're talking about this actualization going into beyond, which would be transcendence, then let's examine this. And just for experiential, experimental purposes, as social scientists, as ontologists, that which explores the quality of being, the philosophy into itself. We're discovering a new way of being that works. If we're going to say higher level or whatever, it's really a refinement of a divining that manifests within itself. So we're no longer having these labels or comparisons. It's really something onto its own. And it really will help you make the distinctions to everything else where you have less judgment, less opinion. And sure, you're weighted to some side, but it's just coming from an understanding and love that's going to allow things to be, even though you trespassed. You went beyond that border, didn't you? And that's where the discovery is, that someone came across this and goes, oh, ultra beingness, what would this be about? Awareness. Could be aware of what's out there. That's projection, right? Out there being aware, okay? Well, the projector of that, I think, would be the person you'd want to study, not just the images being projected. Oh, there's something to be said about watching movies. So the movies of the mind are really kind of unique. So self-liberation as a movement would help people have a bit more of this sensibility of I awareness. Mission pretty much accomplished. Again, what is this I awareness? I'm catching my thoughts rather than my thoughts leading me. So if I'm having a thought, which to me is sort of, I'm going to be consciously aware of having the thought rather than the thought having me, I choose not to think certain thoughts. They just don't go there. And I don't go into the areas where people are using that kind of language. So representation of the thoughts is the words. So what am I saying? It's the quality of what I'm talking about. Is it making a difference? This quality of ultra beingness, how's it demonstrated through my words? Are kids present? Am I going to say something that's going towards and forward, or is it going to be putting people into some sort of weird state? Man, you got to be careful, treading the waters here and there. But you be this beacon for this ultra beingness where you can observe without judgment and go, yeah, I had that thought. I did it again. I went there, I said that. And then I'm conscious of what I'm actualizing. So TWA is the acronym. And I use a lot of acronyms because they're formulaic. Help me remember it, and it's what it is. Awareness. If I had some awareness of what? It'd be my thoughts, the quality of the words I'm using, and how I'm acting. Woo! That's it. You've got eye awareness. If you're going to have a thought, have some conscious thought about your thought. Right? The words, right? I'd be very careful what I say to people. I want to give somebody a life sentence because I slipped of the tongue. Right? And then I regret it for however long. You got to at some point go, oh, this is something now that, we can point to, and it's us. It's no longer the projection just out there, although we can learn from seeing something, but we're no longer like, oh, I'm trying to see myself from the reflection. You're having an inner state of awareness, and this translates into ultra beingness because the choice of how you're being present is the practice of ultra being, practicing being present. It becomes an observation. It could be an observersion, an adversion. But when we see this with new eyes, we can kind of stand back and go, or just be with it, At the same time, you represent something, because as you're not so easily tipped over as you were in the past, or going out there and projecting, the reflection sort of comes back to something that really is a gift to people, because it's how you're being present. And your loving presence just shines through, because you no longer have this agenda forefront or this false mask. It's gone. And if it comes up, it's gone in an instant. It's like, oh, I caught it. I got it that time. And maybe you helped me, right? So thank you. This quality of being present is truly a gift. And self-liberation begins with this. So we'll go into, and I have other talks on this, called the REC formula. So how do we elegantly REC the old or the past paradigm, the stodgy paradigm, the things that are institutionalizing us, but do it in an elegant way. So even though it gets permanently and really wrecked, we reckon with it. And in that process, we really had transformation rather than destruction and just damage and people going for however long. We just wake up. And this would have been the gift, and whatever the cost in the past, sort of us to get here to this resolution. From this point of view, we can have compassion and forgiveness, really, because people already have it so hard. And why would we add on to anything that's other than going to help take the burden off, right? And it could be something where people have to sit with it and reflect on it, and they deal with their own issues. But if the outcome is self-liberation, getting out of their own story, we've become emissaries for a work that totally is transformational consciously. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? If we get out of the story, it presents a whole new opportunity. And we just simply have to catch ourselves. And awareness is, what am I thinking? If I'm having the thought, where's it going? How am I talking about it? The quality of the words I'm using, and how am I acting? TWA, thoughts, words, and actions. It's the flight you take every day, right? It's a reflection of your attitude and your altitude. Ultra being present is simply this. So the formula, and we'll talk about this in the REC. So how we elegantly bring down the paradigm is us by being emissaries for this work. We take a stand for something, but it's really quite loving in the way that, man, you're going to be the ultimate rebel, the ultimate hood, but, be hip and with it and really cool in this dimension. I can't think of anything better to be. And if there was a consideration, I would consider it. So the pointing out of the ways, there could have been something of a truth that was dominant in our personality and in our makeup. But in this realm, and in this realm, so we can see the duality and sort of go, okay, we're just not trapped on one side. This is really a view of being centered and staying in harmony. If you don't have that, you got disharmony. And the key to the REC formula is to make this easy. So it's like a whole other talk. So you got to check it out. But we want to elegantly bring down the paradigm as part of taking the next step in self-evolution, which is self-liberation, right? First, we get out of our own story, and then we can help other people do that. But we need to do it for ourselves first, right? So we have these little aha awakenings and attunements. That's the work of self-liberation, to elegantly be present so that as other people experiment, you become a guide perhaps, where you're really more the reflection of something that people could model because you maintain your state of ultra beingness. So it becomes a quality unto itself that I can model. We become a delight really at the end of the tunnel, because as I'm with this person, they're feeling really great being around you, for whatever reason it is. And part of this is this enlightenment, and the way that you are the way shower through your presence is now going to have an effect on others. So I invite you to go along with me on this journey and to take on the concept of wrecking the old paradigm, but doing it quite elegantly and fun, so you get both sides worked out. The hardcore rebel to the person that goes, oh no, we don't want to hurt things, right? We got it handled, and everyone's going to be satisfied, and it's going to be fantastic because it's got that harmonic signature to it. That's what it's about, and we're going to take it to a new level, because that's my work. This is what the exploration is. So you can find out more about me at MikeRatner.com. And I do have this kind of summarized in a more ontological, philosophical work I'm calling grandtourideas.com. So I'll just give you an overlay of what informs what we're talking about here. But ultimately, my expression would be this ultra beingness, and having sparked a self-liberation movement, that you, among others that you impact, family, friends, your sphere of influence. We could start a friendship, fellowship, peer-to-peer type organization, communityconversations.com, all kinds of things can emerge, or we can plug into, be a part of things as we wish to contribute and experience them. There's a lot of beauty in this work because it represents a whole paradigm shift. And those of you who get it, especially those of you who knew me before, you go, I knew you were heading there, Mike Rich or Grey Wolf or Jivan Mukti, in these different circles. I have these nicknames, so for Mike Rich was the motivation world. I'm not quite sure that would be. I think Jivan Mukti would work for self-liberation, right? Jivan Mukti here. We play into this. We have a lot of fun. And it is on a whole new dimension. So it is transformation. And you become the beacon for this. And I tell you, if anything that informed me from the past would be, hey, I wanted to get there because I know what I want. And you should too. We take a stand for something. And this becomes our way of being. But on an ultimate level, we can experience it. Now we live it. And we live it in demonstration as a model to others because we get it. And that's how we give it to them. In so kind a way. The mail truck's coming. I'm waiting for one thing. I'm going to come down. So we're to do that in the video. All right, he's not coming to my door. He's just putting it in the mailbox. I got something delivered back to me. It just didn't. It was a Valentine's surprise. You get to know me and my enterprise of enlightenment and where I go with this. Man, I just observing myself sometimes. I go, wow. I sort of want that wow for you, right? Because if I can help you get out of your story of limitation and woe or whatever it is, and a lot of it's just doubt, particularly when it comes to me and my nature that I'm going to explore. It's like, can I really be that profound? Is it really that deep? If I become that enlightenment, oh my gosh, I must be in my ego. But instead, I came up with the idea of an I go, where I go in my imagination. Is that amazing? And I've researched this, man. I've at least spent the last 3 months at a heavy focus of this involved with the new year and this Valentine's Day coming about things. So it's like the study is like, well, I want to go deep with this because this is my passion, my purpose. I got no other course of action or no direction other than this right now. Because what else is life about? And so if I can just share some of my insights and helps one or two of you, or spark a real true self-liberation movement, we would have done something. We would have accomplished something. And this is what friendshipfellowship.com.org is also about, although that could be in spiritual, religious communities. But we bring about fellowship to a greater degree as fellows in society, to sort of have something that we could share, and maybe some insight that we'll have gained just through our approximation to each other. Well, it's, to me, that's what it's about. I mean, for me, what's sublime is this. You can have a loving conversation with someone that sort of is also, of a dimension of ultra beingness. It's really quite remarkable, in this way. So lovingconversations.com, selflib.org, friendshipfellowship.com. These would all be little anchors to sort of invite and bring people in and sort of share the wisdom. And I was serious about the I go. So that writing, I go, where I go in my imagination, naming the self, which amazing through history, philosophy, psychology, sociology, everywhere where I try to research it. We all identify what this is, but it's never been named other than the self thinking of the self. So what's that? The self thinking of the self projecting in mind. Let's call it what it is. Let's name it something. So I said, I go. So IGO, I go versus ego. This is the I go in my imagination. So IGO, ISM.com, igoism.com. You can read the academic paper, the argument for it, which is just borrowed because you have to make the argument like, this is legit. Igoism.com. I hope you can be light and easy with me in the way that I'm just sort of am with you. Please don't consider me anything special other than that, your special friend. And sort of in any way, if I were to just sort of say something, it would be meant to move the needle a little bit, but gently so. You have to be where people are at if you're going to respect their space. And boy, that was a lesson I had to learn, probably more so than most. I was the space invader, the psychic vampire of a different dimension, different level, master manipulator. Well, if it's taught me anything, it's like, well, there's a lot of lessons you're going to have in your life if you're, other than sort of really living it from your heart. So the direction and the lesson just sort of takes you back to source. So when I do and am in this way, I contemplate it, that this is the ideal. So I came up with Ultra Being. It's just like, if we could study the masters, and these could be the gurus, the saints, whatever it is to you, and it's just someone who's a loving example as you are to me. Believe me, I learn from how I observe. Yes? So my filtering is this, to exalt only the goodness, and the rest, we can leave it behind. This is self-liberation. This is a movement that sparks something way beyond we ever conceived before, and yet this is exactly what we've always wanted. And as we experience it, we can share it. And we do it in such a loving, profound way, simply by being being present. Nothing more is being asked or required, and if it is, we're attuned to it. We do our best to be in this way because we demonstrate this divine demeanor as we can best practice it, imagine it to be. And this is the formula that the rec presents. And in Ultra Being, it's UBE3. If we're going to have a formula for this. Hey, this might be the signal. I consider that was random, but Ultra Being, an excellent example of enlightenment. What does that mean for you? It's like, okay, we got the concept of Ultra Being. So how do we practice it? And we take Einstein's formula, energy equals mc squared. Or Gandhi's dictum, you be the change. You be the change. Huh. So Ultra Being is a practice. Being attuned to my best. This is not being there's a bit. It's not any pretense other than just being, right? So as we practice this emptiness, the practice of being present, observing. This is Ultra Being. So Ultra Being what? Present, empty, attuned. Ultra Being, an excellent example of this enlightenment, as you know it to be. It's an experience. It's an experiment. It's an exploration. What is this enlightenment? And you will learn by observing it. And as you do, you'll bring it out in others. This could be our signal. Happy face, one of my teachers taught me in one of our tribal meetings. He said this to the group, just before a sweat lodge, I believe. No, actually, well, he said this a few times. One time I was in someone's house giving a lecture to a group, having a little party where people came over to see this guy talk, happy face. And he said, the greatest master that's ever walked the world resides within you. It was quite profound, right? Have a little bit of a sacred story there. Brings people sort of in, The greatest master that's ever walked this world or this earth resides within you. So if I have any role or purpose here, UBE3, Ultra Being, an excellent example of enlightenment, is to guide whatever this profoundness is, to be a representative for this work, because I am part of the converted. I am. And it's a practice in every moment for me to be pristine and a challenge. I am no master, but yet I know within me there is this possibility. Yes? So I bring it out here. And I appreciate you sharing this and talk and maybe be a part of the founders. The first group in that goes, yeah, I'd like to explore this with you. It's a Gedenken, a German word. It says it's a thought experiment. It's a lifestyle philosophy put into practice, a spiritual practice, perhaps, right? Yes. It's true identity, right? Who do I want to be? How do I want to appear? But honestly, not just for conversion for screen share time or promotional purposes. Yeah, that's behind me. Maybe some future endeavor we can social media market this. And I'll dress up in a more delightful outfit. This is really about getting out of our stories, folks, and having sort of a sacredness that's just really about being present. Because it's all just right there. I don't have to be think in my head so much anymore. If I'm going to have some awareness of my thoughts, well, that's something, right? And the words I use and the way I act and actualize. I hope you'll join me along this journey. This is something that, as we can share and be present to this, we will inform it as we do ourselves, and we're going to evolve it, right? So does it naturally grow like love, or do we have to be a bit more involved to evolve it, to look at the possibilities of it, so we can become enriched by it? But at the same time, just by giving it, we can let it go, right? Because it's just what it is. We want to have pristine moments, and this is what the practice of being present really is, right? So as we can lovingly be so just empty of our story, just some people, they're going to have a lot of stories. And you might have to listen to a few. And you'll go, wow, that's amazing. That's the most fantastic thing I've heard all day. Right? I hope you had some fun with this. And again, you can find more about me at mikeratner.com. A summary introduction, grandtourideas.com to my work, grandtourideas.com. Wow, it's interesting. And it is a gift. I mean, for me, to be able to present to you and think I have something to give that's really of quality and assurance, like, hey, I got it this time. And if I fall down, I'm going to pick myself right up again and go, whoa, what was that about? And we'll have a laugh, right? We might have some insight, sure, and we get it. And that's what really being culturally attuned would be, right? Because I want to get it and receive it in such a way that it's a benefit. And I can really use it rather than to be sort of, resistant or defensive or offensive or trying to avoid or making excuses for. I can be present to it. So that type of cultural criticism might be really have merit. It really could be of a consciousness that if I have something that I can pay attention to, this time I would listen, right? Versus last time I didn't, and caused a 40-year rift of something, right? Because that one little incident. So UBE3, ultra being, an excellent example of enlightenment is the challenge of ultra being present. And in each moment, you may have to catch yourself for a while, right? And then you have some semblance of balance. And you just walk the talk, you're attuned. And so it's part of the process, right, of our maturation and our conscious evolution, right? UBE3. It's a great format to share with others because that to me is my one legacy. Just pass it along, UBE3. What is it? UBE3. Ultra being, an excellent example of enlightenment as you know it to be, as you can experience it and explore it, right? All right, thanks for checking it out again. I'm Mike Ratner. Oh-ho. Whoop. Self-lib.